Okay, folks, let's talk about the picture. Let's be perfectly clear. This paint was poured as a counter-forensic measure. And frankly, the fact of the matter is, the FBI has enough here where they could test this. Things like wood and concrete are very porous. And we know that that blood had to have sat there for hours, so it seeped in. And frankly, covering it up with paint is not as effective as they would like to think. It is very likely that the blood stain would seep back through. And I want you to just take a look at the patterns involved here, because it is very clear that it was poured. It was dripped. This is not a stain. This is not a splatter. This wasn't an accident, because there would be splotches of it everywhere. There would be splatter marks. And how close this is to the wall, it's impossible for there to have been like a can sitting somewhere and maybe it tipped over. You can also tell this by the fact that this is not enough of a trail to leave this much on the second step. It would not completely cover it like this. Same thing with down here. Noticing these drip stains, that is not enough to make this paint mark. It would have to be a constant stream starting up here, going down here, and then going down here. It's pretty clear to me that they dumped it all here, just let it drip down, and then when not enough paint was dripping down, then they just poured over it on the concrete. Now here's the thing, guys. The FBI could take this and test it without the McAlberts even knowing. There are forensic techniques that could show if there is the presence of blood underneath paint. And remember all that trace DNA that was found all over John's clothing? Well, did you know that if you were in the US military after the year 1991, then they have your DNA sample on file? Meaning, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins' DNA is on file at the Department of Defense. Something that the Department of Justice would have access to. Now, that's not something that's automatically included in a search. The Department of Justice would have to seek out that information. But that DNA could possibly nail Higgins as well as Brian Albert and anybody related to Brian Albert because of familial DNA. And you may not like whether I say this, but nothing is going to be done unless we start calling Leah Foley, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts, and demand that they reopen the investigation. Start making noise about it. And if you really want them to listen, start telling them that you will stop supporting ICE raids if they don't. We need to become such a nuisance that they cannot avoid talking about it anymore. And even if they ignore us on the federal level, there is hope on the state level, and I'll get to that in the next video.